Imagine your own brother stealing your family's $2 million inheritance, laughing as he hands you a measly $10,000 to disappear. That's what Jack did to me. But I didn't break. I built a $50 million empire in secret, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. This tale of betrayal and revenge will grip you. Let's get started. Imagine this: you're sitting at the kitchen table, the same one where you ate Sunday dinners as a kid, where your dad taught you how to balance a checkbook, where your mom told you family was everything. Now picture your older brother, your flesh and blood, the guy you looked up to, sliding a stack of papers across that table with a smirk that could curdle milk. Those papers? They're the deed to your family's estate, the business your parents built from nothing, the inheritance you were promised. And he's got his name all over them. Not yours. His. That's where my story starts, folks, and if you think that's bad, just wait, it gets uglier. I was the quiet one growing up. My brother Jack, he was the golden boy, loud, charming, always the center of attention. Dad's hardware store? Jack was the one out front shaking hands while I was in the back counting inventory. Mom's bakery? Jack took credit for every recipe while I scrubbed the ovens. I didn't mind. I figured family was about balance, right? He'd shine, I'd support. That's how it worked. Until it didn't. See, when Dad got sick, things shifted. Jack started whispering in his ear, planting seeds. "She's too soft," he'd say about me. "She'll run the business into the ground." By the time Dad passed, the will was rewritten. Mom was too broken to fight it. And me? I got a measly $10,000 check while Jack walked away with a $2 million empire, land, stores, cash, the works. I'll never forget the day he handed me that check. We were in Dad's old office, the smell of sawdust still lingering from the store downstairs. He leaned back in Dad's chair, his chair now, and tossed the envelope like it was pocket change. "Don't spend it all in one place, sis," he said, laughing. Laughing. Like he hadn't just ripped my future out from under me. I stood there, hands shaking, the weight of betrayal sinking into my bones. He thought he'd won. He thought I'd slink away, tail between my legs, another forgotten sibling chewed up by greed. Oh, how wrong he was. But here's the thing about betrayal: it's a slow burn. Doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in late at night when you're staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment you should have seen it coming. I trusted Jack. I'd spent years building that business with my own sweat, thinking it was ours. And he'd played me like a fiddle, waiting for the perfect moment to pull the rug out. The worst part? The rest of the family didn't blink. Aunt Sue said I should let it go. Cousin Mike told me Jack deserved it more. Even Mom, bless her heart, just sighed and said, "He's your brother, dear." As if that excused him stealing my life. I could have fought him in court. I had a lawyer friend who said we had a shot. Forged signatures, shady notary stamps, the whole mess screamed fraud. But I didn't. Not because I was weak, no. Because I knew something Jack didn't. Revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's patient. It's a seed you plant and water in the dark until it grows into something unstoppable. So I took that $10,000, smiled at him through gritted teeth, and walked out of that office. He thought he'd broken me. He had no idea I was just getting started. That night, I sat in my crummy little apartment, rented of course because Jack owned everything else, and made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to build something bigger than he could ever dream of, something that would make him choke on that smug grin. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. Jack had lit a fire in me, and I was going to use it to burn his world to the ground. Not with lawsuits or shouting matches, those were his games. My weapon? Silence. My battlefield? The shadows. And my prize? A victory so sweet he'd never see it coming. So there I was, $10,000 in my pocket and a fire in my gut, ready to turn my brother's betrayal into his worst nightmare. Jack thought he'd left me with nothing, but he forgot one thing. I'd spent years watching him, learning how he schmoozed customers, how he cut corners, how he thought he was untouchable. I knew his weaknesses better than he did. And while he was busy playing king of the castle, I started building something he'd never suspect. Not in a million years. I didn't waste time wallowing. That $10,000? It wasn't much, but it was enough to get me a beat-up laptop and a cheap office space in a strip mall nobody cared about. I called it Cornerstone Solutions. Vague enough to fly under the radar, sharp enough to mean business. Jack's empire was hardware and baked goods, old school stuff tied to our parents' legacy. Me? I went modern. I taught myself supply chain logistics. Hours hunched over that laptop, coffee going cold, figuring out how to move goods faster and cheaper than the big dogs. I started small. Local businesses, mom-and-pop shops desperate to compete with the Walmarts of the world. I undercut the competition, delivered on time, and kept my mouth shut. No flashy ads, no big announcements. Just results. Word spread. A diner here, a florist there. Soon I had contracts with warehouses, then manufacturers. Jack was too busy counting his millions to notice the nobody sister he'd written off was quietly cornering a market he didn't even understand. By year 2, I'd cleared $500,000. By year 4, I was at $5 million. I reinvested every penny, hired a small team, bought software, leased trucks. I didn't tell a soul, not even Mom. Especially not Mom. She'd let it slip to Jack, and I wasn't ready for him to know. Not yet. Meanwhile, Jack was getting sloppy. I'd drive by the old hardware store sometimes just to see. The paint was peeling, the shelves half empty. He'd expanded too fast. Fancy new locations, overpriced inventory, all flash and no substance. Customers complained online, but he didn't care. He was living large, new house, new car, vacations to Aruba. He'd even started dating some wannabe influencer half his age, parading her around like a trophy. I'd scroll through his social media late at night, watching him brag about his empire, and I'd smile. Let him strut. Every post, every smirk was just another nail in his coffin. Then came the first crack. 5 years in, I got a call from an old family friend, Mr. Dawson, who'd run the lumber yard Dad used to supply. He was desperate. Jack had jacked up prices, missed deliveries, lost his trust. "I hear you're doing something on your own," he said. "Can you help?" I didn't hesitate. I signed him that week, rerouted my trucks, and had his lumber moving smoother than Jack ever could. That deal pushed me past $10 million. And Jack? He didn't even notice his old supplier slipping away. He was too busy sipping cocktails on a beach somewhere. The real turning point came a year later. I'd been watching the market, waiting for my shot. Jack's bakery chain, Mom's pride and joy, was tanking. Bad reviews, health code violations, you name it. He'd taken out loans to keep it afloat, leveraging the whole estate. Big mistake. I had my team dig into his finances, quietly of course. Took some favors, some late nights, but we found it. $15 million in debt, and the bank was circling. That's when I knew I had him. I didn't just want to beat him anymore. I wanted to own him. I kept growing, kept hiding. My empire hit $30 million, then $40 million. I bought a warehouse under a shell company, hired more drivers, locked down contracts across 3 states. Jack's name never came up. Not with my clients, not with my team. To the world, I was just a logistics nobody. To Jack, I was still the sister he'd crushed. And that's exactly how I wanted it. The longer he thought he'd won, the harder he'd fall. I could feel it building, that moment when I'd step out of the shadows and watch his face twist. It was coming. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And when it hit, he'd never recover. 7 years after Jack handed me that measly $10,000 check, the day arrived. My empire was at $50 million. Trucks humming, contracts locked, a machine so tight it ran itself. I'd spent every waking hour building it, sacrificing sleep, friends, everything just for this. Jack had no idea what was coming. He was too busy drowning in his own mess. The bakery chain was bleeding cash, the hardware stores were a ghost town, and the bank was ready to foreclose. He'd called a family meeting, some desperate last-ditch effort to save his skin. Perfect. I'd been waiting for an audience. I walked into Mom's house that day, same old kitchen table, same old faces. Jack was there, pacing, sweat on his brow. Aunt Sue, Cousin Mike, a few others, all the ones who told me to let it go years ago. Mom sat quietly, hands folded, looking older than I'd ever seen her. Jack launched into his sob story. The loans, the losses, how he needed everyone to chip in. "We're family," he said, voice cracking. "We've got to save the legacy." I almost laughed. Legacy? He'd torched it the day he stole from me. He didn't notice me slip a folder onto the table. Not at first. He was too busy begging. "I need $15 million, he said. "Or we lose everything." That's when I cleared my throat. All eyes turned. I didn't rush. I let the silence stretch, let him squirm. Then I slid the folder forward and flipped it open. Inside, paperwork, bank statements, property deeds, corporate filings. My name was on every page. Funny thing, Jack, I said slow and steady. I've got $50 million sitting around. Built it from that little check you gave me. But here's the kicker. I already own your debt. His face went white. I mean white. Like someone had sucked the blood right out of him. What? He stammered. I leaned in, voice low but sharp. The bank? I bought your loans last month. Every penny you owe, every store, every acre. It's mine now. You're done. The room exploded, gasps, shouts, Aunt Sue clutching her pearls. Jack lunged for the papers, hands shaking, but it was too late. The truth was out and it was glorious. I didn't stop there. I laid it all out, how I'd started with nothing, how I'd watched him fail, how I'd turned his betrayal into my triumph. You thought I'd fade away, I said. You thought I was weak. But while you were busy showing off, I built something bigger than you'll ever touch. He tried to argue something about family and forgiveness, but I cut him off. You don't get to play that card. Not after what you did. Mom started crying, but I didn't flinch. She'd picked her side years ago. The best part? I didn't just take his money. I took his pride. I told them about Cornerstone Solutions, how it dwarfed his crumbling empire, how his old suppliers were my clients now, how I'd done it all without his help. Cousin Mike muttered, I didn't know. Aunt Sue wouldn't meet my eyes. Jack just sat there, head in his hands, a king dethroned. I stood up, tossed the foreclosure notice on the table and walked out. Enjoy the legacy, I said over my shoulder. The door slammed behind me. A week later, the bank seized everything. His house, his car, the stores. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. He'd feel it every day, waking up to nothing while I sat on top of the world. Mom called once, asking me to make peace. I told her peace was overrated, justice felt better. And it did. Still does. I see Jack sometimes driving a beat-up sedan, working some dead-end job. He doesn't look at me. He can't. I don't blame him. I'd built a $50 million empire to crush him, and I'd done it. Sweet, isn't it? Here's what I learned, folks. Betrayal doesn't break you unless you let it. Jack thought he'd won because he was louder, flashier, crueler. But I had something he didn't: grit. Patience. A fire that didn't quit. If someone stabbed you in the back, don't scream. Don't cry. Build something bigger than they can imagine, then watch them choke on it. That's revenge. That's victory. And trust me, it's worth every second.